Let's move on and talk about GW1. I'm reliably informed by my fantasy football friends that we should be referring to game week 1 of
such a millennial way of introducing any sort of football conversation, sure.
Of the Premier League. Daniel Harris, good morning to you. How you doing?
Hi, good, thanks. How are you?
What an amazing opening weekend, right? Like, completely unexpected results up and down the country, fire and brimstone, a load of new heroes emerging from nowhere. It's exactly what football needed, right? Right?
Yes, yeah, it was good to have it back, but I think, usually at this time you get some surprising results, but I'm not sure there were too many of those this weekend. Pretty much went as we could have predicted it might go.
Maybe Fulham were a little bit disappointing, but when a newly promoted side who happen to have splashed the cash, obviously, disappoints you a little bit on the opening day of the season, and that's the main thing that lets you down in terms of expectation, well then it hasn't really been very unexpected.
That's true, actually, because when I talk about unexpected results, what you usually get is you get promoted teams doing better than you think because they're confident and they're used to winning and they're playing on a buzz. But actually, and Fulham obviously looked the best of the promoted sides because they ended last season on a good run and then obviously spent an absolute shit ton of money. But they got Premier League, really, didn't they, by Crystal Palace. The goalkeeper wasn't quite good enough, and the extra class that Palace have got, we saw in 2 really well-taken goals.
Yeah, let's talk about the big teams. Let's start with the Paul Pogba situation. I don't know. I still feel like there's a small, slim chance that Pogba might be able to force his way out over the next couple of weeks. Certainly, it seemed like his post-match comments were not the comments of somebody who's like decided to, okay, it's fine, I'm stuck here for the season and I'm just going to get on with this.
I don't see what he's going to do to force his way out because why would United sell him at this point? There's just nothing to be gained by United by selling him, and lots to be gained by keeping him. Because in the end, it is true that he could refuse to play, and physically they can't make him play. And personally, I don't think that anyone should ever be made to work anywhere that they don't want to work. But I don't see that United will say you're not going to play, and then he won't play, and he'll just sit around for 6 months until January or whenever it is. Players have quite a lot of pride in performance. They know it's a short career. They want to play. And he hasn't specifically yet said he wants to leave. We don't know quite what his play is, whether it's for more money. I mean, it would be very understandable if he wanted to leave, but it's hard to be specific when so little has actually been said on the record by anyone.
You would wonder as well, in a strange way, Daniel, if he did leave, the impact that would have in the dressing room, because we don't naturally think of him as a huge leader in the United camp, but it was quite significant that he was made captain on Friday, and then that mini power battle we saw in the opening 5 minutes with Alexis Sanchez, he won that. So they're losing quite a powerful figure in the dressing room, and he's clearly got quite an amount of influence over everybody else in the camp.
Oh, for sure. I disagree. I think that we wouldn't have thought about him like that. But he is definitely the kind of totemic figure in that dressing room because he's the best player in the dressing room for a start, which is always helpful. But also he's an outgoing personality and in a squad that is quite weak on the kind of traditional aggressive football characters that we associate with leadership. And we saw those videos of him playing for France also, where he was the guy who was delivering the team talk at the crucial moment also. So and I think one of the reasons it's possible that he might be convinced to stay at United is he's playing with quite a few of his mates, even if he doesn't like Mourinho. But I think what we've seen over the last few days with Ed Woodward very clearly briefing against Mourinho is that if Woodward had to choose between Mourinho and Pogba, it's very unobvious that he would choose Mourinho. He's not it seems like he wouldn't mind getting rid of Mourinho if only he had the bottle. And actually, if he had to pick Mourinho or Pogba, he's probably picking Pogba.
Which, I probably would too, right? I think most people are close enough at this point to going, maybe we can find a manager who makes this guy play like he did in the World Cup. And if we have that, then not alone do we have the marketability, but we also have an absolutely brilliant player. I
see both sides of that one. I think that there's plenty of blame to go around and no need to be sparing. Pogba has not put it in the way that he might in every game for United, and that is his own fault, his own performance, his own responsibility. He's not given everything that he can. Go on, Sue, were you going to say something?
Yeah, well, I was going to say let's compare and contrast at the weekend. Obviously, Raheem Sterling comes back from his World Cup, and Guardiola comes out to bat for him afterwards, and it seems like I can credibly believe that Guardiola believes everything he's saying about Raheem Sterling. But even when Mourinho is praising Pogba in the aftermath of the game. It's like, well, I made this decision to make him captain. He plays well, scores the goal. It's kind of a reflection on Mourinho that Pogba's playing better now, even though Pogba himself refuses to give Mourinho any credit for that improvement. Do me a proper compare and contrast between the treatment of Raheem Sterling and Pogba by Guardiola and Mourinho.
Well, I think Guardiola has probably a more paternal relationship with Sterling, and I think that Sterling probably needs Guardiola more than Pogba needs Mourinho. Pogba had already done quite a lot in the game before Mourinho arrived, and Sterling had that great season under Brendan Rodgers, but we've seen him improve a lot. I think what you do see with Mourinho, and I don't particularly feel moved to defend him, or at least emotionally bound to defend him, but he gets criticised for players who don't seem to progress under him, and when players improve under him, he's not usually given the credit for that. And Pogba has improved over the course of the season. It might have nothing whatsoever to do with Mourinho, but we saw when he went to play for France, he did the job that Mourinho wanted him to do for United, and his people were sort of saying that he couldn't do. Now, you can look at the France team and say, well, number one, he's playing in the World Cup final. You're going to do in the World Cup finals. You're going to do whatever it takes for that short period, which is sort of what Mourinho said after the World Cup, which may or may not have been sensible, but it probably wasn't that inaccurate either. What you've also seen with Pogba is that he's playing with better players when he plays for France. So, of course, he's not going to mind playing more defensively when he's got Antoine Griezmann and Kylian Mbappe playing out in front of him. Whereas at United, he does not have players of that quality. I mean, he just doesn't. And he doesn't have a defender behind him as good as Varane either. So it's clearly going to affect the way that the job that he's prepared to do. Whereas at United, you can imagine he's looking around thinking, well, why am I not in charge of doing everything here? And perhaps that's not actually the case, but it would be in its way understandable if it were the case, where he might feel, well, United are actually doing pretty well to have me. And that's not a notion that Pogba's bigger than the club or any of this horseshit. It's just that the standard of player that he is significantly above every other player at United apart from David De Gea. So United, a club United status has two generational talents. And that's quite unusual because United haven't challenged for the league in 5 years. So they are doing well to have Pogba. That doesn't mean you should let Pogba not try as hard as he could try in every game and take the piss. But like there's a tension there in a way that there isn't a tension, say, at Manchester City, who are one of the best clubs in the world. And so the players that they have are getting to challenge for the titles and getting to exploit their talent to the maximum. Not even to do with the fact that Pep Guardiola is allowing them to exploit their talent to the maximum, but they're good. They're challenging for the biggest trophies. So there's no tension there in quite the same way. And if a player wants to leave Manchester City, then they're not going. They're only going sideways. Effectively, they're not going up. Whereas Pogba, you might say, well, if I want to go to Real Madrid, they've won 3 European Cups in a row. I want to go to Barcelona. They won the Spanish league last season. They get to play with Lionel Messi. Those are things that United can't offer, and United know that. So they need Pogba to be happy where he is because the football stuff's not quite in place yet.
Yeah, it's interesting when you take on that point of relationship between a player and a manager in the context of Chelsea at the weekend, and everybody's talking about Sarri ball when it comes to Maurizio Sarri there. He looked kind of like an evil doctor on the sideline at the weekend, and it's kind of seems to have found a like mind in David Luiz. It seems kind of two lunatics who kind of appreciate one another's craziness, and it seems that David Luiz could be the very epitome of what Maurizio Sarri is going to bring to this Chelsea team, and certainly from his perspective a huge improvement, and a leader in that Chelsea team is kind of back.
Yeah, he's quite seems a very likeable personality, David Luiz. Like he has that psychopathic tendency, seems to enjoy playing football. Sarri, it's quite hard to know because he's quite an old guy, Sarri. And I mean, you use the phrase Sarri ball for someone who's done what Sarri's done in the game to be accredited a name for what he does, and that his name being the prefix for ball is quite interesting because really he hasn't done that much. So. It's as much Sarri who we're going to see what he's made of, because David Luiz in the end has done a lot more in the game than Sarri has. So I think that what we saw the last time we spoke, I think I said I was concerned about Chelsea because we had a manager trying to impose a style on players without the money to buy the players, perhaps, and without the players. But Chelsea backed him, and they got quite a lot of work done quite quickly at the end of the transfer market. So you now look at the team, and you think, well, actually, that midfield three is a hard night for anyone, and that's obviously the midfield three is essential to playing playing the way that Sarri wants to play, because you need people who can pass the ball, you need people who can run up and down. And I thought that was a really good win for Chelsea. And I guess we should also note that the way Jorginho took that penalty was easily the best thing I saw in the Premier League this season. Like that desire to make the goalkeeper look a dick. I mean, that's exactly what taking a penalty is about, what football's about. And I enjoyed that.
If they can just keep a few players for another 3 weeks, then actually Chelsea could be back as proper contenders.
Contenders is strong, because I'm still not sure where they're going to get enough goals from with Morata as their main striker. I mean, what you read and hear about Morata is that his problem is a confidence issue, in that he's got a great touch, he's fast, blah, blah, blah. He's got all the attributes, but he doesn't have that devil that you have in strikers. He doesn't have the killer instinct, and he doesn't have the nastiness that you see in other great strikers around. But that's not. I mean, that is something that you can be taught. I feel like you can be taught composure in front of goal, which seems like a weird thing that you should need to teach a striker for whom you paid 70 million quid. But there's more in Morata than we're seeing. But you look at him now and you think, I can't see Morata scoring enough goals at the crucial moments for Chelsea to challenge for the title. They might finish fourth, but I think that will be the best that they can do.
Liverpool, though, are the real deal?
I don't know. Well, we saw a team beat West Ham 4-0 on the opening day last season. If you could pick a fixture for the first day of the season, West Ham at home is probably the one that you would pick. Which isn't to say that Liverpool aren't good. We knew that they were good last season, but you're not going to get a proper examination when you play West Ham at home. West Ham have got a whole bunch of new signings, and they're trying to get used to playing together. So it was a good time to play West Ham, I would say. But I mean, Liverpool, like they put it away. They didn't mess about, and they won really easily and really impressively, which is good for the confidence that you need to take into the next game. But we're not going to find out any more about Liverpool playing West Ham at home on the first day of the season. I think one thing that they will be pleased is that Mohamed Salah scored, because the season he had last season was so far in excess of what anyone possibly thought he could do. You could start to wonder, is he just Kevin Phillips or whatever, like someone who has one astonishing season and never recaptures it. So for him to get going immediately again suggests that he's going to be someone who scores lots and lots of goals all the time, even if he doesn't do quite as well as he did last season, because people to some extent are going to be wise to him. But you look at Liverpool and they've strengthened where they were weak, and that's all you can really do in the summer is look at the holes in the team and fill them, and hope that you fill them properly.
Daniel, great stuff. Thanks a million.
No worries. See you again, guys.